What's up, Contractor Envy community? Today, we're going to be dealing with construction math. And a lot of you are wondering what kind of math is going to be on my exam? Like, am I really going to have to do the math? Can I skip the math? People are advising that the math, if you get everything else correct, the math you don't have to worry about. But what I'm going to tell you is forget the myths. Here's the true story. If you can tackle the math, right? You will have a chance of passing. Because just think about this, if you don't do any math and you fail by one or two, or maybe even up to five, how will you feel if you could have attempted to do some of the math because it was that easy, right? So in this video, I'm going to walk through the foundation basics, right? And then as we advance into other videos, we'll start doing more complex math questions like, pipe and excavation when we're talking swell capacity and, digging a trench a mile long. That's a little bit more complicated. Or even with business and law. We want to look at that math as well. But today, we're going to talk foundational, like the basic formulas, like when we start talking about concrete and we start talking about area, we start talking about volume. That's what we need to know for sure. Even if we're going to attempt to do the math, this right here, again, is the foundation. So I thank you for joining us. Let's get into construction math mastery. And we're going to start talking about field conversions, patterns, because I want you to see the patterns, right? And then GC exam prep to get it to under 3 minutes. Because even with all your other questions, you have to manage 3 minutes. Okay? That's our goal. So, going into the three things we're going to work on today. It's going to, of course, be learn the patterns. Every conversion follows a repeatable pattern. So that's even with our formulas. Once we spot the pattern once, you'll never forget it. Okay? Then use field shortcuts. So I teach the +8 -8 method or the plus 5 thousandths or subtract 5 thousandths method. Why? Is because we don't have to be exact because it's multiple choice when you do the math. All right. So stop thinking you got to get it all the way down to the 30 second. It does not matter. Right. It's really about getting close enough to the answer in that 3 minutes so we can move on. So we're going to memorize 4 to 5 anchor numbers. Everything else derives from those anchors. Okay. And then drill until automatic. Here's the part that a lot of you forget. Okay. You have to practice and then you have to scrimmage. You got to really challenge yourself before you get in the game. All right. So we're going to show you ways that you can do that inside of the app as well. So here we are, decimals, fraction conversions. All right. This is a big one. This is one that a lot of us get wrong when we're trying to do this now that we're older. We're no longer in junior high or high school. We're out living our life. We're counting money, but are we really dealing with fractions? Okay. So here, the number one rule to them all is an eighth of an inch equals 0.125 hundredths of a foot. Okay. So, or of an inch in this case that we're looking at inches. I'm sorry about that. So inch of a foot or of a inch is very important to remember. So an eighth of an inch, as you can see, is 0.125. Quarter of an inch is 0.250. 3/8 of an inch is 0.375. Half an inch is 0.50. But look at the pattern here. Everything is going up by 125 thousandths. Okay. So even at the half point, we're getting 50. At 3/4, we're getting 0.75 and so forth. So these are ways when we look at it, okay, when we're looking at this, is an easy way to remember decimals of a inch, okay? And then, so what happens when we got feet and inches and we need to convert the inches over to a decimal? Because we can't multiply feet and inches into each other. So if we got 14 feet 9 inches, we got to convert the 9 into a fraction, right? Or into a decimal. And so here we make it 0.75 equals 14.75. All right, because that's 75% of a foot. 9 inches is. Okay, so same thing with 22 feet and 6 inches. It's going to be half of a foot, so it's 0.50. All right, 22.5. But our anchors again is 3. It's 0.25 when it comes to inches. 4, it's 0.33. 6, it's 0.50. And 9 is 0.75. So these are quick anchors that we remember. But let me show you how these quick anchors that we're looking at right here with the 3, the 4, the 6, and the 9 can work with the whole math. All right, so let me pull up a clean chart here. And I want to, again, put up that 3, that 6, and a 9. Okay, so let me do the 3, the 6, and a 9. Hold on. We get to the bottom here, and I'm going to write, let's do, these going to be our indicator marks, right? So the 3, the 6, the 9, and the 12. Okay, and when I tell you that's 0.25, 0.50, 0.75, 1 whole, right? Which is 1 whole foot. These are inches, by the way. Let's make sure we define that. These are inches. So what happens is, first I'm going to tell you that 1 inch equals 0.08. Okay? And so now we need to figure out what 2 is, what 4 and 5 is, what 7 and 8 is, what 10 and 11 is. All right. Now, just remember, your key indicators in this case are always going to be, all right, our 3, our 6, our 9, and our 12. And of course, you're going to remember the 1 is 0.08. Okay. So here's the simplest way to remember this. Instead of having to do, 3 divided by, let me take this back, 3 divided by 12, right? Because that's how this works. And then we do 24, and then we do 6, and then we do 0, and then it do 5, right? We got to do all that, but we don't have to do that anymore. Let me show you why. In this case, all of our benchmarks are +8, okay? Can't go here because that's the whole, right? That one's the whole. And then -8, okay? But we can go here now, -8. So if we're going forward, okay, we're going forward on 0.25, it's going to be +8. That'd be 0.33. If we're going minus, it's going to be 0.17. If we're at the 50 mark and we're going back to the 5, it's 0.42. If we're going up to the 7, right, it's going to be 0.58. If we're looking at the 8, of course, that's going to be based on the 9. That's going to be 0.67. This one's going to be 0.83. And then last but not least, we have to use here, right? This one here. And what it's going to be is 0.92. So now we have all of the inches covered. Okay? So it's like, oh, shoot, all of the inches are covered. That's easy. But why are we using this type of math? So again, when I go back to breaking down decimals, we got to start thinking about the different ways that we apply this math. Okay. So unit conversions and measurements. So if we're talking linear, okay, linear, length, that's how you got to think about it. Or we're talking feet, inches, and yards. Feet, inches, and yards. And what you must understand is 1 foot or 3 feet actually equals 1 yard. Okay? So inches, feet, and yards. Then we got area. Area is square inch, square foot, square yards. Okay? Square inches, square feet, square yards. You with me? And then there is one state that I have noticed that has, you should know the conversion of acres. How many square feet in an acre? Well, 43,560. Okay? Trick question, I guess. And then volume. Volume is cubic feet and cubic yards. All right. And they say gallons, but I don't think we're going to be dealing with gallons on this exam. Okay. So here we are. Let's look how we apply this. And I want you to think about this. The magic number is 27 cubic feet equals 1 cubic yard. And it appears on every single GC exam. All right. So 27 cubic feet equal 1 cubic yard. Let's break that down because we're going to start getting into some formulas. Okay. So here we are. Let me draw this out for you. And you know I'm a hell of an artist, right? So let me draw this box. And you guys see me do this a lot in our math class. Okay. And what I want you to see with this box is 3 feet, 3 feet, 3 feet. And what happens is the problem is 3 times 3 equals 9. Sorry, I got a new little iPad. It's not great when it comes down to this little this pen, right? But 9 times 3 equals 27. Okay? So now that's the formula. 3 times 3 times 3 equals cubic feet. All right? So it's 27 cubic feet, okay, equals 1 yard. Well, so that's how we see it. If you imagine a box that's 3 by 3 by 3, that's a cubic yard. All right? So where does this apply at? We just did these inches converted over to decimals, and now we're looking at yards. How do we apply these things? Well, today you're going to be working on a formula in the lesson after this video that's going to help you start to visualize these things. Okay, so let's go back to our slides and let's talk concrete formulas. Okay, so concrete calculations, the volume is always going to be in cubic yards when you order, right? And the formulas always going to be length times width times thickness, and that's in feet, not in inches. Divided by 27 is going to give us the cubic yards. So if we're looking at this, right, we still got our indicators here. Look, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12. They're all converted over to decimals. A slab example, this is a classic example, is we got 40 feet times 60 feet with a 4-inch thick slab and the cubic yards plus 5% lace. Well, we have to convert the 4 over, so that's going to get you 0.333. That's going to end up being 799.2 cubic feet. And you got to convert that over to yards. So you divide that by 27. That gives you 29.6. And then you add the 5%. Why do we add the 1? Because we're adding in. If we just did 0.05 there, it would only be 5% of what we're trying to subtract or multiply. So When we start to break that down with a footing example, it's no different. We got 120 feet lineal, okay? We got 18 feet wide. We got 12 inches deep, and that's going to tell us the cubic yard. So 18 inches get converted over to feet in the decimal, right? Then volume, 120 times 1.5 times 1 equals 180 cubic feet. Divided by 27, we got 6.67 cubic feet. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. If you don't have a visual on these things, I want you to take the Construction IQ course. All right. It comes free with the membership, a Construction IQ course. And why? Let me show you. I'm going to come over here and we're going to go into the Study Buddy app. And I'm just going to go over here to the classroom. I'm going to go into the Construction IQ course. And we're going to talk about identifying components so you can see it, so you can know what it is, right? So here we are. We got this concrete footing, all right? It says tap the concrete footing. You tap it, okay? Now it tells you the code that it comes from and what table, okay? And all the code that applies to it. So next, we'll go next and it start talking about projections. That's keyword. What's a projection? Well, if you look, right, we tap that, it's going to tell you what the projections is, right, and where the code applies, and so forth. We get tap the stem wall. Oh, that's a stem wall, right? And it breaks down that. And this goes into where we can talk about code. We can talk, we got exam questions in here, and we also talk about violations. So just to make that clear, oh, I actually pushed the button. Just to make that clear, is if you don't understand concrete, that's chapter 4, by the way. If you notice, everything was broken down by chapters. This is foundations, chapter 4. This right here is floor systems, right? And then right here is wall framing. Okay. So going back to the math, today we're working on concrete calculations, right? And so when we look at a problem, what you'll see is, let's just use this as an example, is I got a square. We're going to call this our slab. Our slab is 30 by 20 and it's 5 inches thick. Okay. Could be a driveway, slab, patio, whatever. The formula is again length times width times thickness divided by 27 equals yards, right? Correct? So now we have to break down our formula. Our formula is, again, length 30 times 20 and times 5 inches, right? Divided by 27. But remember, we can't do the 5. We have to, okay, do the point was 6. It's 0.50, right? So what's 5? 0.42. Okay? So that's how we'll get the total yards. And that's simply our math formulas right there. So if this changes to 8 inches or this changes to 9 inches, you can easily go to your head 3, 6, 9, 25, 50, 75 plus 8 minus 8, boom, and you'll get it just like that. All right. So this is just converting feet over to inches. So you'll do this on your assignment today. All right. And we're not going to go into the advanced today. But what I want to do is stop here and give you the opportunity to do this math. Okay. So if you're interested in learning more construction math, I want you to comment below. I want you to join the community if you're not already in the community, because everyone that's in the community is about to do the lesson. And that lesson is going to be 10 questions in 3 minutes. That's the key. 3 minutes, okay, for you to work on these type of formulas. All right. So again, appreciate you tuning in to What is Construction Math 101, Lesson 1. And I will see you in the next video and in the next class. Do what you do best and nail it.